and today I'll be doing some maintenance on the Vespa LX 150. As you can see, the tread on the lower tire has gotten too low, so we need to change the tire. I'm going to change the stock Pirelli tire with a Continental Zippy 1. To begin, we have to take off the exhaust to get access to the tire. The exhaust is held on by 2 bolts in the back and 2 bolts on the flange. The easiest way to get to the 2 bolts in the front is to take off this cover. I recommend always using a magnetic tray so you don't lose the screws and bolts. As you can see, once you take the cover off, you can access the 2 bolts in the front, here and here. Now I can see the nuts. I'm going to use a 6mm Allen socket to loosen the bolts. I don't want to remove them at this time, just loosen them. I'm going to use a 10mm socket to loosen the 2 nuts on the exhaust flange. Again, I'm going to loosen but not remove the nut. Now that I have both nuts loosened, I'm going to remove the left nut first, then the right nut. I'm going to remove the bottom, then the top bolt. Once you have all the bolts removed, you can now remove the muffler. Now that the exhaust is off, we can now see that you can easily reach the axle nut. It might be helpful to hold the rear brake by using some Velcro while doing this project. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers to straighten the cotter pin. The easiest way to take out the cotter pin is to insert the needle nose pliers in the loop end and tap it gently with a hammer. Once you have removed the cotter pin, you can then remove the nut. I'm going to use my 24mm socket to loosen the axle nut. Once removed the axle nut, make sure to remove the washer before removing the tire. I'm using a magnetic tool. To get the tire off, you have to shake it back and forth. Shake it multiple times and it will come off. Make sure you don't hit it with a hammer. Since I already have the rear tire off, I figured I might as well change the hub oil because it's easiest to do when you don't have a tire on. Using my 6mm hex socket, I'll be removing the hub oil drain bolt. To help the oil flow faster, I'm going to loosen the dipstick. For oil choices, I prefer to use Motul Gear 300 SAE 75 W90 100% synthetic. Now that the oil has drained out, I'm going to replace the drain bolt so I can replace the oil. Now that I'm ready to replace the oil, I have removed the dipstick. Motul has a built-in funnel that you can just insert into the hole. If your brand of oil does not have a funnel, I've heard of people using ketchup squeeze bottles, turkey basters, or even big syringes. Always use your dipstick to make sure you have the appropriate amount of oil. Since I have the exhaust off already because of the tire, I'll be changing the oil. Changing your oil frequently is cheap insurance. When it comes to oil, you have to make sure you use a 5W40 full synthetic 4T oil. I'm going to use a 24mm socket to remove the drain plug. The drainage plug on the oil has a rubber O-ring that you have to make sure you find and replace with a new O-ring before you fill the oil in. To make the oil flow freely, I'm now going to go loosen the dipstick. As you can see, the rubber O-ring is still stuck on the scooter. I'm going to remove it and then inspect the oil screen after I pull it out. When inspecting the screen, you need to make sure that the screen is not damaged and that inside there are no metal parts that can indicate engine damage. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the oil filter. The oil filter has a black rubber gasket. You need to make sure that the oil filter came off with the gasket. The new oil filter will have a new gasket. Notice that I'm reinstalling the screen before I put the oil in. Now I'll reinstall the drain plug. Notice I already put the O-ring flush against the drain plug. Since the drain plug is brass, we can't tighten it too much. We have to just make sure it's snug because it will strip easily. Before you install the new filter, you need to pre-lube the gasket. You never want to use a wrench when installing a new filter. You always want to just install it hand tight. Now I'm going to start pouring the oil into the funnel very slowly. The LX150 takes a full liter of oil, so I'll be pouring this whole bottle.